Jeff, just how has the process changed for you when you bring in a whole new offensive staff and you got different ideas, different people having different input? Like, how does that change the scouting process?
Well, it changes a little bit. You know, we all look at players very similar, and yet there's emphasis on certain things that we have to bring our attention to. So that emphasis is important to our new staff. It's certainly important to us in terms of the details that we're looking for in certain athletic skill sets and things like that. So that's changed a little bit from, you know, the last couple of years here, obviously the last 9 years here. But it's exciting. It's energizing. The new staff has given me great detail of what they're looking for in terms of the athletic skill sets, some of the tangible qualities, and just different emphasis at different positions. And so that's exciting for me because that's what we do. You give me details and we'll try to go out and find it. So that's really the only change. Their offensive staff has a ton of things on their plate. They're all basically new. They've got a not game plan, but playbook to put together. They've got free agency coming up down the pike. We got the draft, so they got a lot on their plate, but they've been fantastic.
Anything kind of stand out about this particular class when you're looking at it? I think it might be the last of the COVID classes, so.
Nothing really stands out. I mean, it's a good group of offensive skill, really good group of offensive line. The highs, the depth at most positions are kind of the same, and the lack of depth are kind of the same. Defensive linemen, there's only so many big men that run sub-5 flat, in the planet, and we're looking for them. And that hadn't really changed, but it's a good group. We're trying to weed through all the information that we get at this time of the year. Looking forward to the on-field workouts, but thoroughly enjoyed the interviews thus far. We had a big group this morning. We have a big group tonight. It's a great group of guys, so I'm really excited to get to know them better.
When I look at offensive line, the media analysts or whatever who do mock drafts and big boards and things like that, it feels like there's 8 to almost 10 guys that have been on someone's first round grade. I mean, does it also feel like 32 different NFL teams might have a different 3 that they like from this group?
Yeah, that's always the case. But this is a good group. This is a good group of offensive linemen, tackles in particular. And there's some guards and centers in that group as well that are, they can come in and play right away, type vision. But it's a good group, yeah.
What do you look for when a guy, like for tackles specifically, like that indicates they're ready to play right away? Like, is there something with that position that you?
I think it's more, it's intangible qualities. It's intelligence. It's sometimes it may be the scheme that they've played in college. It's how many games they've played in college. It's and then there's an athletic skill set in there. Being able to stay on your feet, balance and body control, and how well they use their hands to strike and move defenders, and then pass protection. We're pass protecting 65 to 70% of the time. That has to be a skill set that is pretty polished in our league. And so those are just a few details that we're looking for.
Can you tell us a little bit about Dave Ziegler's kind of addition to and how he would end up impacting with the draft?
That's probably a question for Mickey. I've known Dave for years. He's a great guy. He's a very talented evaluator. Right now, he's getting involved in both, the pro and college. I don't even know what the title that we've given him, personnel analyst or consultant or whatever that may be, and that's what he's doing. He's analyzing some things that we've asked him to analyze, and he's evaluating some players that we've asked him to evaluate. He's been in a couple of different systems. He's been in the Patriot system and kind of grew up with the Broncos, and he's been a GM. And so, he didn't want to be doing nothing. And so it was a chance for us to, I like to call it, get another brain in the game. And he's got a lot of experience, a lot of knowledge, and why not pick it, learn from it. It's a quid pro quo. He's going to learn from us and how we do things, and spent some good time with him yesterday going over some things, and we're glad to have him on board.
When you look at the 49ers offense and the stuff Shanahan's done, one of the things that always stands out is the yards after catch. When you're looking for that in a player, is you almost exclusively have to look for film for that stuff, or can you figure that stuff out in these drills and see these guys move up close?
I tell you, if you can figure it out without watching tape, tell me how to do it. No, it's certainly a skill set that that we're looking for on tape, and I think it goes from, you can even go back to high school. Not that I'm going back to high school, watching a lot of high school football tape. I'll a clip from from time to time I will, but it's just it's a skill set that they have. It stays with them. There's a mindset to it. They're not catching and falling down. They're catching with an intent to get yards after catch and run after the catch and go score touchdowns and be aggressive. And that's something that it's a little bit of the makeup that we're looking for, but it's also it's a skill set that you see on tape.
You guys, you guys met with Jaden Daniels, and even if you don't want to talk about that specific thing, what's the value of like interviewing a guy that? Sorry, this seems really dumb, but what's the value of interviewing a guy that probably would be long gone before you guys pick, and just still doing that research anyway, and what are your impressions of him?
Look, the draft's an inexact science, and you can't say he'll be gone. You never know. We have to be prepared for everything. I've been in drafts where players have slipped. I don't think he's going to, but I've been in drafts where maybe we've taken the things for granted that he's going to be gone, and you get to it, and he's still sitting there for us, and maybe our scouting staff didn't do our homework at that time on that player, and that's a dangerous game to play. So we're going to do our homework on every single player, and that was the case with Jaden. And we had a great interview with him. He's a great kid, very impressed with him.
Is there a world in which, maybe not Jaden Daniels specifically, but some of these guys that you meet with 4 or 5 years down the road when they come off their rookie contract, if they become available, that information is helpful, I imagine? Exactly.
We call it a historical document. It's there until the guy retires, and we look back on that document from today or tomorrow, whenever we've accumulated all that data, and we'll use it in free agency, whether it's a free agent, whether he's on the street as a street free agent. Whatever case, we look back in these documents, and because we don't really call around to teams during free agency because you don't know if they want to keep them. So we have to look back at this and players mature over time, and so you have to take that with a grain of salt at sometimes. But yeah, it's a historical document. We look back on it quite frequently.
There have been some high-profile like cases of guys not participating in the drills this year. I know it's maybe been like that for the last couple of years, but is that a trend you see kind of going? Is that something that's harder to evaluate? How do you kind of see that as?
It's tough. It's tough. I feel like the player's job is to answer all of our questions. My job is to try to build conviction to draft the player. And so when a player doesn't interview or doesn't do a medical or doesn't do a workout, those are questions that we have. And when I got questions on a player that doesn't do this, that, or the other, then I'm probably going to pass on that player and go with the player that has answered all those questions because I got conviction. It's no different than any of you guys making a decision. You're going to make a decision based on as educated and as convicted as you can on the information that you have. And so when a player doesn't work out, I feel like it hurts our ability to build that strong conviction to make a really sound decision. And I'm usually chasing that information until last weekend we can get out. And hopefully, hopefully that's not a trend. But it seems to be quite frequent that we do it, and at the end of the day, most of the time we get them to do the drill. It's just sometimes not on it's on their time frame, not on ours.
People often talk about like smoke screens and that this time of year. How do you guys sort through like misinformation and what's good information and what might be changing? Like how do you guys decide what to pay attention to and what to ignore?
Well, look, it's our job to get the information ourselves. It's not our job to listen to rumors and innuendos and social media stuff. It's our job to make sure that we have the answers that we have to all the questions that we get, and make our own decisions on that information. So, is there smoke screen out there? Sure, but it's our job to understand exactly what we need to do to make a educated decision. So, look, we put our share of smoke screen out there too. So we all know it's out there, and we have to filter through it. But it's our job to answer our questions and make sound decisions based off of it.
What's the value of putting the smoke screen out there?
Because, I don't know, maybe sometimes people listen to the smoke screen.
We talked at the Senior Bowl of like adapting kind of the vision of now Clint, but what does that kind of look like on a week like this, where you're maybe keeping him in mind of types of players? Like, how does that kind of unfold?
I'm sure I understand
like-
the question.
Clint has a vision for players. How do you kind of apply that when meeting with players
Yeah.
this week or anything
I think
like
it's
that?
it's what we did for an hour after our last interview. Clint and I just sat in a room and talked about, you know, philosophy and those emphasis things that he's looking for. Talked about players, talked about makeup, just spending time with him and understanding what he's looking for and how I go about making decisions and my thought processes, and trying to get him as much information that he can, that I can, for him to help me make these decisions. And we're very collaborative. And I listen to the coaches, I listen to my scouts. We filter through all the information that we can, and you know, it doesn't really matter if it's Pete Carmichael or Clint. I'm going to listen to them, and we're going to try to get them what they're looking for, and emphasize the details that we're looking for in players. And but I think it's going to take a little time to get exactly what we're all looking for. But the more time we spend together, the more time we spend in meetings, and they can articulate the things that they're looking for, the better scouts we're going to be in making those decisions.
Do you anticipate that changing your sort of what you're looking for in offensive linemen much? I mean, it seemed like you guys were already running a lot of that kind of outside zone anyway.
Yeah, we do a lot of inside zone, some outside zone. I mean, again, the evaluation of offensive linemen is relatively similar. We're seeing the player the same way. I don't think the intangible qualities change really at all. We're looking for smart, tough, dependable guys. They emphasize, a couple of different skills that they're going to run more often than we will. I mean, like we ran it, call it 100 times. Well, they may run it 400 times. So that emphasis has to be a little bit more on that because they just run it more. So.
This is, I think, draft number 9 here in New Orleans for you.
Mm-hmm.
How at all has your process kind of evolved over that time?
You try to get better every year. You try to learn from the draft. There's trends. There's different things that change. We're constantly updating our prototypes. We're constantly updating our thresholds. We're trying to understand where you find players, where you can get inexpensive players in terms of resources to the draft, in free agency. But the process of cutting down the board and the makeup that we're looking for, the demeanor and the toughness, all those things, they stay the same for the most part. You just have to keep learning because the game's changing. We can only we have to change along with college because college is giving us our farm network. And so if they're not giving us fullbacks, they're not giving us wide tight ends, or they're not giving us, 3-down running backs, we have to change with that, and we have. They're giving us more athletic quarterbacks. We have to change with that. We're getting less pocket passers. So we have to change, our mindset and how we utilize those players. And so that's how I've evolved, at least I've tried to evolve.
Yeah.
You got some more guys winning scouting awards. It seems to be something that happens every year here for you guys. Why has your staff been so successful as just a scouting group?
Look, we have great guys, and they work their tail off. I guess one of the great compliments you can give to a scout is they're grinders. And they just go out there, they do their job, they're visible, they're aggressive in getting the information that they need to be. They're on time, they're very dependable. And I'm just really super proud of the guys that get acknowledged in that, Casey Talley and Justin Matthews on our pro side. I mean, that's a hard award to win because, pro scouts don't get seen on the road like on a daily basis. They get seen as an advanced scout. And, for Justin to make his mark in the scouting community about, a pro scout and how well he does, and it tells you something. It's not a popularity contest. That's not what it is. It's they're getting the scouts are they're evaluators and they're critics, and so you have to earn their mark, to get voted for. So Mike Ball. Mike Ball's been very instrumental with me this draft process. He's an outstanding voice in our room. He's a strong and very good, pure evaluator. You know, he's got a routine that he goes through, and I just really appreciate how he attacks it. And all of my scouts, even the ones that don't get the acknowledgement, they're all really good staff. And we haven't changed a whole lot, you know, in our staff. I like the continuity of it, but you know, Casey and Paul Zimmer and John Sandusky, all those guys do a fantastic job. Just blessed to have them all, to be honest with you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.